Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This week's episode, we're gonna do something a little bit different. We're gonna do an episode all about RV maintenance. We're gonna cover 3 topics. So the first one is gonna be AC cleaning and maintenance. So I'm gonna show you how to clean your air conditioners, simple and easy. You can do it by yourself, just takes 30-40 minutes per AC. Then we're gonna do some tank maintenance and cleaning of our tanks. So we'll show you simple tips about how to clean your tanks and maintain them. And then finally, we're gonna wash our entire rig. So we're gonna show you some products that I love for these jobs. We're gonna show you some products that are helpful, good tips, and let's get after it. We are Danny,
Melissa,
Emma, Jake,
and
we are 4 Simple Lives.
Hey guys, we just wanted to break in for a quick second and tell you some exciting news. Melissa and I, along with our great friends, have started an RV podcast. It's called RV Trash Talk. On this podcast, we discuss unfiltered tips, tales, and fixes from the road. You can get our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, so please go check it out and tell us what you think. So with any job, the first priority is safety. So I'm getting ready to work on the air conditioners. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna find my fuse panel. I'm gonna look for my main AC. I'm gonna shut that off, and then I'm gonna look for my bedroom AC, and I'm gonna shut that off. Now I know there's no electricity going to the air conditioners. I'm up on the roof now, and I'm just getting my knee pads on. So it's very uncomfortable to be on your knees for an hour and a half up here cleaning these ACs. Let's try to make this as comfortable as you can for yourself. All right, let's test them out. Oh yeah, that's good. So the items that you're gonna need to service your air conditioner is a Phillips head screwdriver, several rags, don't forget your gloves. For the evaporator coils, we're gonna use this Evap foam no rinse spray. So this one's a little more easy on the inside of the RV because this is going on the evaporator coils. So this is the smell that's gonna get into your RV. So it's still an evaporating foam, no rinse, but we're gonna put this on the evaporator coils. For the condenser coils, we're gonna use this foaming cleanser. So this is a very good product. It has a little bit more of a smell. That's why we use it on the condenser coils, because that smell is not gonna necessarily go into your rig. The great thing about this is it comes with this brush here, so you can use it to clean your coils. So if you have an RV technician, a certified RV technician, a mobile tech come out, they're gonna come out with all of these things. They're probably gonna come out with a few specialized brush tools just to straighten up your coils on your condenser coils. That's not something we recommend for people that are just doing a DIY job, just cleaning your air conditioners. Those condenser coils are very, very fragile. And when you use those specialized tools, you can really damage those coils. So for the purpose of this video, we're just talking about DIY. So just get you some of this evaporating foam cleanser, and it comes with a nice brush on it. I also like to bring a squirt bottle just in case. It is evaporating, no rinse foam, but sometimes if you get a little bit on there and it's a real dirty air conditioner and there's a lot of soot and dust and stuff like that in there, I like to just spray it down a little bit. And then finally, you need a metal magnetic tray for your bolts, because the last thing you want is those bolts to be falling off the side of the air conditioner or going inside the air conditioner. So just get you a magnetic bowl dish and just throw your screws right in there. So for my rig, we have Furrion air conditioners. So on these plastic shrouds, I have 9 screws. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take my Phillips head screwdriver, and I'm gonna take all 9 of these screws out of the shroud. And then I'm going to use that trusty metal tray, and I'm going to drop the screws right in there so I don't lose anything. Once we've taken all the screws out of our plastic shroud, then we want to remove the shroud. Be careful, especially on a windy day, you don't want to lose it. The practice that I've become accustomed to. As soon as you pull that plastic shroud out, just go ahead and throw your tool bag in it. That's the way it weighs it down so the wind doesn't pick it up. Now we have a good view of the inside of our air conditioner after I removed the plastic shroud. So you can see the condenser coils here on the outside. You can see how there's a little bit of damage on some of them. It's a fairly new rig. We've had this about 7 months, and I've cleaned this once already, but you can see the debris. So the first job is just to get all this debris, leaves, twigs, and things out of there. And then we're going to use the brush that came on top of the foaming cleanser for the condenser coils. And we're just going to straighten out these blades and get all the loose dirt off of the coils. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to go around all the coils and clean out the dirt and straighten them up. See lots of leaves and debris in here, so we want to get rid of that first. A lot of times when I'm out and I'm cleaning people's air conditioners, I'll bring some of that air spray in a can that you use for electronics like your laptop. I find that works really good just to blow the debris out of the areas here where you can't quite reach with your hand. You can see here, just using this supplied brush with the foaming spray, we start to straighten out those bent coils that are out of place. We're just getting all that loose debris, straighten those coils out. As I mentioned, if you have a professional RV technician come out and do it, they have some specialized tools that can really straighten these coils out. But again, it's very touchy, these coils, so I do not recommend the everyday RVer coming out here and buying those tools to clean these coils. Just use this provided brush, it works really great. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this condenser coil spray and I'm going to squirt it all over the coils to get it really, really thick on there. And that's going to just clean all of that dirt and debris off there. And it will melt off, so it takes everything off. It's a no rinse product. So I'm gonna let that foam sit on there for about 10-15 minutes. While that's happening on the condenser coils, we're gonna go over to the evaporator coils, and I'm gonna take that plastic foam shroud cover off of it, and we'll have a look at those coils. So you can see here now I'm at the front of the unit, and I'm gonna take off this foam cover so I can expose the evaporator coils. So we can see the evaporator coils here, and they're pretty dirty as well. So we're going to use that brush to straighten them out. But one thing I want to point out is if you look straight down here, this is your filters that are inside of your RV. So before I clean or squirt any of this foaming spray on here, I'm going to fill this gap with some cloths just so that we don't get water inside there. Now this is where all your electrical connections are, so you want to be sure that you don't get any liquid inside here. So one thing I want you to pay attention to on these evaporator coils is if you see this cord that's going into the coils, this is my freeze sense. So this is telling the air conditioner when to stop, turn on, turn off. It's also going to let us know if our air conditioner is freezing. Another good tip is if you find that one of your air conditioners is freezing, if you jump up on the roof here, chances are that freeze sense probably fell out. So before you clean these, you want to make sure you pull this freeze sense out, make note of where it was. So after you're done cleaning, you can put it right back where it was. So as I mentioned, I just cleaned this air conditioner not too long ago. So I'm going to keep the freeze sense in here because with the Freons, they're pretty well mounted in there. So I'm not going to pull it out. But if you have a Coleman or a Dometic, go ahead and pull that freeze sense out. That way that you don't damage the product. And then when you're done, just make sure you note where you took it out of and put it right back in that hole. So I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to clean these coils. And the back side of the evaporator coils, it's a little harder because you got your fan motor and your blades in the way. So if you see any that need to be straightened out or any obvious debris, just go ahead and take caution and get it out of there. Now, as I mentioned on the evaporator coils, we're going to use this product. It's still a foam, no rinse product, but it's a little less harsh because on your evaporator coils, this is where the smell, whatever you put on here, is going to go right into your RV. So we're going to use this product for that. So I'm gonna let that foam sit on there and do its job, and we'll go back to the condenser coils and have a look. So as you can see, that foam is evaporating on its own. Now when I do these jobs, I do bring just a spray bottle of just plain water up here. Just in case I get a little bit too much foam on there, I can use that spray bottle and just take a little bit of it off. I also bring shop towels up here, just so I can clean up any of the excess. So I'm just gonna squirt a little bit of water just to get the rest of this foam off. And then I'll grab my brush again and just do one little swipe across the coils. Now we can see how clean and how straight all these condenser coils are now. And that's it on the condenser side. All right, we finished the condenser side. Now I'm back at the evaporator coils and I can see that all my foam has melted. So I'm gonna use my brush one more time just to get any loose debris. As you can see, our evaporator coils are nice and clean. I've got my freeze sense back where it originally was. I'm just gonna pull these rags out. And that does it for our AC maintenance. One thing I did want to point out here, if you have a professional, a certified RV technician come out, there's a few extra things that they're going to check for you. So they're going to check your capacitors, which are right here. They're going to make sure all your connections are good. They're going to check the capacitance of the capacitor. They're going to check your fan motor and your fan, make sure everything looks good. They're also going to do a test on your compressor there, just to make sure that your compressor's up to standards, working within regulations. All right. Now I'm just going to put this all back together. I'm going to put this plate on where I check the capacitors. Like I said, you don't have to do that as a DIY. I was just showing you what an RV technician is going to do. And then I'm going to get this plastic shroud put back on over the AC. And we'll be done. You just want to be careful when you're taking this shroud on and off. Let's talk about cleaning the rig. You spend all your hard-earned money on that rig and you get to go on your great family vacations. You don't want to just let it sit there and sit in the sun. So we need to wash our rig. This is a good time to do it now because everyone's heading out for the first camping trips of the season. So these are a couple of things that I like. I love just a brush on an extendable pole. We can use this, you can find it at any big box store. Just a wash soap, a washing cloth, anything you can get into those nooks and crannies. I love this chemical, guys. It's a wash and wax all-in-one product. It works great. I use it on my RV and on my truck. Of course, you got to have the handle to go on the back of your hose. Then when we talk about treating the tires, I love this tire foam. This is an Armor All tire foam. Great product. I use it on the truck and the trailer. You clean the truck, you clean the trailer, you clean the wheels, then you just spray this on there and it does it for you. What I really like is this tire shine applicator. So this tire shine applicator really does a good job at buffing out those small little crevices in your tires. So once you put the foam on your tires, let it disintegrate. Use this tire applicator right here because this is great for getting in those little crevices in your tire and to make it really clean. And finally, after we clean that RV and it looks spick and span, we want to make sure that we take care of our seals. This is a rubber seal conditioner. It's a 3-in-1 product. You can find it on Amazon. We'll put everything on the link. You just squirt this on your seals, take a nice little microfiber cloth over it, and you'll keep that seal nice and shiny. It'll draw that black color out of it, and it'll keep it going for years to come. The final step here is we want to make sure that we condition these seals really well after we clean them. So we got the RV Care 3-in-1 rubber seal conditioner. So I'm just going to spray it along the slide seals, and then I got a microfiber cloth and I'm just going to rub it down. That way we're protecting this seal from the elements. Keep the rubber intact. Keep that nice shine on our RV that we're proud of. Keep this RV going good for years to come. And I'll go around and finish all my slide seals. Let's talk about tank cleaning. Tank cleaning is probably one of the most frustrating things that RVers deal with. You feel like you're constantly behind the power curve of your tanks. There's always a smell, or you get a blockage, or it just doesn't seem clean. So the number one thing I recommend is to have your tanks cleaned at the end of every season by a professional. You can use a company like Clean Tank. There's many certified individuals out there that own their own businesses that'll clean your tanks for you with a jetter. That's the number one thing that's going to get your tanks truly clean. So do it at the end of every season. That way when you go camping the next season, you start with a nice fresh tank. So this is my go-to formula for both my gray and black tanks. So I use 20 ounces of Pine Sol, and I use 4 ounces of Calgon, and I put it in this 1 gallon jug, and I fill it up about halfway with water and shake it up, and that's a fantastic solution. See, the problem is most people think that their tanks are septic tanks. They're not septic tanks. The goal is not to break down any of their product in there. They are holding tanks. So all these products you see on the market, a lot of them try to break down the solid waste in the tanks. And that just gives you a nasty, sludgy mess inside your tank, and it's impossible to get all of that out. So I use the Pine Sol with the Calgon. Now the Calgon is a surfactant, so it's very, very slick. So it puts a nice slick coating on the bottom of all your tanks. So all of these solid materials, instead of pooling at the top or along the tank, it'll just slide right down to the exit valve. And as soon as you open that valve, you're going to get all of that product out of your tank. Again, the tanks are holding tanks, they're not septic tanks. So your goal should never be to break down the waste that's inside those tanks. So a couple of tips from your tank, specifically your black tank. You want to let that tank fill up to about 90–95% full before you drain it. The goal is to have as much water as possible in there, because if you just have a ton of solid material in there and not a lot of water, you constantly empty that tank every time you use it. All of that hard material is just going to sit on the tank, and it's not going to slide out. The next thing you want to do, once that tank reaches 90–95% full, go ahead and drain your tanks, and then get you some type of product like the Valterra Flush King. So the Valterra Flush King is really great because it hooks right up to the exit port of all of your holding tanks, and you can flush water into those tanks so that you can really get a good clean in there. Now they also have, most RVs have a black tank flush on the RV, and those are really good, but the problem is those sprayers are on the top of the tank and they're squirting down, and that might not necessarily get all of that hard to reach stuff. So if you use the Valterra Flush King, you're essentially back flushing water into that tank, which is going to help fill it up from the bottom to the top, from the exit port all the way in, and that's going to help push and loosen some of that material, so then when you drain it, it'll come right out. So that's the Valterra Flush King right there, and you can see it has a port for your hose right here, so you can close this valve, you can hook up your hose, and you can backflow water into your tank, whether it's your black tank or your gray tank, and it'll really get those tanks clean. On our Brinkley, here's my black tank flush right here. So I always use that, I hook a hose to it and I'll flush it. But then I always go back to the Valterra Flush King before I'm done cleaning my tanks and give it a real nice flush with the Flush King. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flush my black tank. And nobody really wants to see that. We'll show you when we're done. So I've emptied my black tank. Now I'm gonna close my valve. And one thing I wanted to point out is when you're flushing, this is a very important product. You wanna get a water flow meter. That way you can see how much water that you're putting inside your tank. So on my Brinkley, my black tank is 45 gallons, and my 2 gray tanks are 45 apiece, but they're what they call a true capacity tank. So it's actually 2 45-gallon tanks that come together as one. So it's a true capacity of 90 gallons. So when I'm flushing my black tank, I usually put about 35–40 gallons in there, and I watch on this monitor right here, because that's the last thing you want to do is blow up your tank. So now I've got my black tank valve closed. I have my water hose hooked up to the spigot, and I'm monitoring how many gallons of water I put in there. And I'm going to put in about 20 gallons of water in there. Then I'm going to open up that black tank flush again. And I'll do this cycle about 2–3 times from the RV's provided black tank flush. All right, I put about 30 gallons through the RV's black tank flush. Now I'm going to open that valve again. And we can see we still get quite a bit of stuff out of there. So this is the first time. I'm going to do this 3 times, and then we'll move over to the Valterra Flush King. So I've flushed my black tank 3 times using the provided onboard RV black tank flush. Now I have my hose connected to my Flush King. So I have the valve on the Flush King closed. I have the hose connected to the Flush King. So I'm going to turn the water on. And you have this valve right here, so there's no water getting into it. Now I'm going to open my black tank valve on the RV, and then I'm going to open this valve So now what we're doing is the water's stopping here in the flush king because the valve is closed, but I have the valve going to the black tank open. So now all of this water is back pressure filling that black tank. So we're just cleaning that black tank from a different angle. So I've put about 20 gallons of fresh water in through the Valterra Flush King into the black tank. So I'm going to turn the water off at the spigot. I'm going to make sure I close my hose valve connection so we don't get any backflow into my water hose. Now I'm going to open up this Valterra tank valve. And that's going to get a lot more stuff out of your tank that the RV provided black tank flush is not necessarily getting. Like I mentioned, the sprayers are on top of the tank and they're spraying down, so they can only do so much. So using the Flush King, we can backflow into that tank and we can get a lot of that stuff that the onboard flush spray nozzles is not getting. All right, so I've just used my Valterra Flush King to flush the black tank 3 times. Looks like it's completely flushed out. So I'm gonna head up here and I'm gonna turn my black tank valve off. Again, I'm gonna make sure that we're closed here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drain my gray tanks just to get all of that nasty black water out of my hose. So we'll push the gray tank valve. Some of you may have noticed I forgot to put my gloves on. I was so excited about getting this video out for you guys that I forgot to protect myself. Now, one thing to note with this Flush King system with the hose, this is a pretty closed system here. So all I'm doing is hooking up a fresh water hose. Well, it's my black water hose, but fresh water hose to the Flush King. And then I'm hooking up my water hose to my RV flush, my RV black tank flush. So it's a pretty clean process, but I was just getting ready to finish cleaning the gray tanks and I realized I didn't put my gloves in. So it's always a good idea to have your gloves on. So it looks like my gray tank is pretty much drained out. So one thing to note on RVs is there is no gray tank flush valve on RVs. So of course most RVs come with a black tank flush valve, but on gray tanks there isn't a gray tank flush valve installed on the RV. So that's why the Flush King becomes very important. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn my water back on. Then I'm going to close my Flush King Valterra valve. Now I'm going to open the valve where the water hose is. And now I'm back flushing into my gray tank. So the same thing I did with my black tank, flushing back up into the black tank. Now I'm going to flush back up into my gray tanks. So like I mentioned on my Brinkley, we have 2 45-gallon gray tanks. However, they're plumbed together what they call a true tank. So it's actually one giant tank, but it just splits off at 2 different spots. So some of you might have an RV where you have a black and a gray up front, and then you might have a gray or a black tank in the back if you have a bathroom and a toy hauler or something like that. So you just have to bring this Flush King to both exit ports of your RV and do this process. So I'll flush this gray tank with the Flush King 2-3 times, then we'll come back and see how it looks. All right, just completing my 3rd flush of the gray tanks. Close the water hose valve, open up the Flush King valve. You can see the gray tanks are actually nastier than the black tanks because the gray tanks have all the spaghetti water going down the drain, all the body washes, all the shampoos, everything that people uses. The toothpastes are going down there. So a lot of the times when I go out and I professionally clean someone's RV, the gray tanks are, believe it or not, they're actually nastier than the black tanks. So we'll let this gray tank completely empty after the 3rd flush, and then we'll go inside and we'll put our Pine Sol and Calgon solution into all 3 of our tanks. All right, head inside and we'll put our Pine Sol solution into our tanks. Put about a 1/2 cup of the Pine Sol solution, and I'll put a 1/2 cup in the bathroom sink. And then I'll go put some in the galley sink. So a good rule of thumb with the Pine Sol solution is put about 1/2 cup in each one of your tanks, And then when you drain your tanks, every time that you drain your tanks, put about 3 to 5 gallons of water with that Pine Sol Calgon solution in there, especially on travel days, because when you're moving, you put 3 to 5 gallons of water with the Pine Sol in that tank, and it's going to move around. It's just, again, it's that surfactant on the Calgon. It's really going to put a nice slick coating over your tank, the bottom of your tank. So anytime a solid comes down, or that spaghetti water or those body washes, it's going to slide right off the tank and head towards your exit valve. Good rule that we tell the kids is every time you use the restroom, no matter what you do, stand on the pedestal for 10 seconds. So if you use the restroom, stand on the pedestal for 10 seconds. Water is your best friend with your tanks. You want to put a lot of water in your tanks because, again, it's a holding tank, it's not a septic tank. So the goal is not to break down the hard matter in the tank, it's just to hold it there, floating in water until we get time to go drain those tanks. Another great thing about the Calgon and Pine Sol solution is you buy a 40-ounce bottle of the Pine Sol and you buy a small, I think it's 16-ounce bottle of the Calgon. You mix that up in your 1-gallon jug. Again, I do 20 ounces of Pine Sol, 4 ounces of Calgon, fill up the rest with water. That's about 10-15 cents. Every time you put it into your tank, it's about 10-15 cents. So all these other products on the market spending $20-$30 on a bottle for 20 treatments. You can go down to 10 to 15 cents just by using the Pine Sol Calgon solution. So good luck out there with those tanks.
We hope you all enjoyed this episode. We had a great time putting it together for you. Again, this is stuff that works for us. It may not work for you. If you have any questions, please consult your owner's manual, manufacturer, dealership, or a mobile RV tech. I'm sure that they can all help you out with any questions that you might have, or just drop us a comment below, or you can email us and I'll put their email in the description below as well. If you haven't already, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. It's free to you and it supports us. Thanks again for watching.